Seema, what's the latest reaction then to the European Commission's decision?
Well, here in Italy, the government, for its part, says very much that they're sticking to their plan. So it seems as if the tensions continue to rise between Italy and the EU, and the EU Commission saying very clearly that draft budget that calls for a 2.4% of the GDP in terms of the deficit for the country for 2019 is simply unacceptable. But Matteo Salvini, speaking to reporters here in Rome today, said that figure is just not negotiable. They're willing to move on other fronts, but on that figure, no. The Prime Minister, Giuseppe Conte, for his part, said that they stand behind their budget plan. They are convinced about it, and he's looking forward to constructive talks when he meets with the EU Commission President, Jean-Claude Juncker, on Saturday evening. So it'll be interesting to see what is it that they decide. But Italy, for its part, feeling very strongly that their plan to boost spending is going to boost growth, and that's going to deal with the debt. Now, that's extremely opposite to what the EU is feeling at the moment.
But is this defiance coming from Rome about keeping promises to voters, or more about standing up to Brussels?
I think essentially it's a mixture of the two, but very much about keeping their election promises. The government that came into power, this populist government, are really putting forward this idea of a universal income for the poor, tax cuts and spending hikes to help Italians. Now, all of these measures clearly very popular, and which is what led to their win in the elections. That said, though, this collision course is really not something that's going to happen immediately. The EU Commission has recommended that they put in place these excessive deficit procedure that will eventually lead towards sanctions for Italy, but that's still a long way to go. First, the member states actually have to all agree to this measure, and then Italy also has to approve this budget in Parliament, after which the European Commission will then ask for a correction, and then there's 3 to 6 months for Italy to respond. So I think what the Commission is actually hoping for is that there will be room for discussion and negotiation before they reach such an extreme measure. And they, for their part, are wary about perhaps punishing Italy too harshly. Concern, of course, about the European parliamentary elections that are scheduled for May next year. In the meantime, of course, it's going to be interesting to see how the markets respond to all of this. So lots of room for negotiation in the coming weeks and months.
Thank you very much, Seema Gupta in Rome.